Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. Those of you who were at the previous session, thanks for staying. And those who are entering, thank you for being here. So we have two more sessions of Kaavya Dhaara. The next one features a set of 4 poets and reading in English, all reading in English. And all 4 of them again, like many of the panels in this festival, we have a real diversity of voices. We have Srilata, who is a senior poet. Many of you may have heard her read and also read her work. She is from Chennai, and she's going to be reading here. She will be followed by Jhilam Chattaraj, who is a Hyderabadi poet. She teaches in Hyderabad, and her work spans both literary criticism and poetry. And then we have also Manya Cherabuddi, who is also a poet from here, and she will also be reading in English. And the last poet we have is, again, like we had in another panel yesterday, a very young poet, Tamaara Nambiar, who's just 11 years old, I believe. So we span generations on this panel, and I think it will be interesting to hear these different voices. So may I invite Srilata, Jhilam, Manya, and Tamaara up on stage. And we'll follow the order that I have just invited them up in, and each poet will have 10 to 12 minutes to read. Oh, there's Manya, okay. And as I said, it's very difficult to circumscribe a reading because poems are of different lengths and require different cadences and different amount of time to let them seep in. But the nature of a festival of this kind is that you have sessions one after another. So I apologize if I'm going to make you stop at the end of 50 minutes. So may I ask Srilata to begin? Request is if more of you could come forward, because it is nice to have a sense of audience for those who are reading. Express my special thanks to Srilata because she's reading under duress. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Usha, and thank you all for being here on a Sunday afternoon, and I hope you find that your time here is worthwhile. So I'll read you some poems from my latest collection, The Unmistakable Presence of Absent Humans, which was published by Poetry Wala Mumbai in 2019. And I'll keep to time. Yeah. So many of these poems are about actually just what the title says, the presence of people who are actually absent from our lives, the presence of ideas that are absent from our lives in practice, right? So broadly, I think this is what the collection is sort of about. I'll begin with a poem titled, It is 1966. It is 1966. I'm not born. My father knocks on the door of a house I have never seen. There at the door stands my mother, slender, a sprig of jasmine in her hair. I take a taxi to the park where they are sitting on a bench, a foot apart from each other. He with his face resolutely averted, she with her eyes on the poorly tended flowers. It is the beginning, I know, of that great quarrel. My mother, no longer a new bride, the edge of her sari, already a grieving afterthought. She doesn't see me. She sees only the crumble of her years. I am to hold forever the grating harshness of it all. I walk up, older already than them both, tell them I'm their only daughter, and will they please, please look at each other the way they had the day he had knocked on the door and she had let him in, jasmine in her hair. My mother looks at the flowers, the crumble of her years. My father away from us both. A disappeared person. They say a person can disappear and leave no trace at all. Such things are known to happen. Missing persons cast no shadows. They don't leave used dishes in the sink, nor square bits of body soap, nor toothbrushes that have flowered slightly, nor notes declaring love, etc., on the fridge. But surely, growth and all sorts of things are possible in the life of a person who has disappeared. And so, like the blade of a knife, that shadow presence, leaving used dishes in some other sink, and square bits of body soap, and toothbrushes that have flowered slightly, and notes declaring love, etc., on someone else's fridge, ruining ever so slightly the geometric alignment of our lives. I'll read to you a poem that was recently published in Vasafiri a few months ago. Give me a minute while I access this poem. Room house. 1. Not too small, not too big, this apartment with its balcony, on which kitchen with no walls, so we can cook and still belong to the rest of the house, is what I have sold my diamonds for. Thinking over the agent's glibness of my grandmother who had bequeathed them to me. They had once shone talisman-like in the dark of that small room where we three lay, she, my mother, and I, on the floor in a row, 3 women used to small spaces. 2. My mother is sitting on the only bed in the only room in the house, writing something. When she's done, I find an ink stain on the sheets. One of them is an outstretched wing. 3. My grandmother is working her sewing machine in a corner of the only room in the house. She's making me a dress 2 sizes too large, so you can grow into it, she says. And when it is done, go on, try it. 4. It was never more than 7 steps from anywhere to the only window in the single-room house, and I would like to tell you that the sky floated in through the slats, filled us, my grandmother, my mother, and I, with spaciousness. I would like to tell you that we learned to take up space. The truth is, we just grew used to small spaces, the 3 of us, rough diamonds stuck in mines that ran too deep to catch the light. Thank you. Okay, so this is called I Bury Them Under the Witnessing Yellow of the Chinar. And it's a poem in memory of Atta Muhammad, who was a grave digger and caretaker of unmarked graves in northern Kashmir. He didn't take political sides. I mean, he just did what he did in the kindest way possible, which is that he buried bodies of people on both sides of the divide, caught in the crossfire sometimes, and who no one knew the identities of. And he did this for many, many years until he grew very old and he passed on himself. So this is for Atta Muhammad. It's called I Bury Them Under the Witnessing Yellow of the Chinar. I bury them under the witnessing yellow of the Chinar, blood moon faces yet to taste the sweetness of youth, beards just beginning to show, fake encounters, scarred bodies of great importance to someone somewhere, sons whose mothers will never find them, infants, young girls with torn vaginas and dreams in their eyes. I bury them all, and the blood in my veins grows still. I've spent my hours naming the disappeared, the dead, the forever gone, uttering prayers over each new grave. I have spent them weeping, and the chinar trees have wept with me. Under the same chinar, my old happy self lies buried. A friend teases, Muhammad, you have grown rather good at this burying business, haven't you? He is right. I'll bury anything that makes its way to me. What I cannot bury is the remembering. Okay, this is called Everything Drowns Except This Poem. I'm standing in a country I know like my skin. The rain is falling slim and sweet on crisp butterfly wings, on the singing minds of people. And since there are windows left carelessly open, the rain is falling in a gentle slant on books, on the words inside them. I'm standing in a country of many-hued umbrellas. In it, not one word, not one poem is allowed to drown. I'm standing in a country I once knew like my skin. The rain is falling like knives, snapping the wings of butterflies and the singing minds of people. The rain is falling like hard slabs on books until no words remain except the ones, wet and angry, which have sought shelter inside this poem. I'm standing in a country of broken umbrellas where everything drowns except this poem, wet and angry, that insists on living. Do I have time for one last one? Okay, so I'll end with this. This one is called Boxes Have That Effect. All evening, I have been considering boxes, handcrafted ones, compelling and impractical, the sort that jam easily. I drop my earrings into one of them, its bluebird shimmer gone before you know it. I've lived in them all my life, boxes in which I have become, with a dangerous degree of precision, this, that, the other, or etc. I've noted the contents of their insides. Not bad boxes to be in, and yet I've clawed at their lids like some death row prisoner. Thank you.
The world is never the same once a good poem has been added to it. Dylan Thomas. Over the years, Indian poets writing in English have added a fine range of works into the folds of Indian literature. I dedicate my session to poets who have etched the path of poetry and who have written for 30 years, 40 years, and written and published only poetry. I am here because you were there, and I'm happy to read among eminent poets like Usha Akela and Srilata ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jhilam, and I'll be sharing a few poems from my book, Noise Cancellation. It was published in 2021. It's available at the bookstore. If you like my work, you can get a copy, and I'll be happy to sign for you. And I'll begin by reading my poem, Sari. It has been published at multiple journals and been nominated for the Nina Riggs Poetry Award 2023. I am wearing my mother's sari, Mekhla Chadur, and I guess this is the closest that I can be to her at this moment. So here we go with sari. 6 yards of soft wetness soak the forenoon sun. Cotton expanse in powder blue, filigreed edges and for gold, puff like sails in sea wind. A voyage into endurance. My mother's sari is a scripture, a flag carrying countries of household truths. She in bed with children, she scrubbing the mossy bathroom walls, she in kitchen smashing a cockroach to its end. There's love and violence that only the pleats of the sari can tell. And now, so much depends on the bee-loud brilliance of the sari, drifting in fragrant droplets into the air, claiming its share of radiance from farmers, weavers, and men. Their curious figurines melting into a fabric ripe with moisture, and a million perforations. Thank you. Everyone looks very serious. I'm getting scared. Like, could you please smile? Poetry is supposed to make all of us happy, not grave. If you're hungry and if you think it's time for a snack, I could read my poem, Mirchi Bhaji, for you. Would you like it? Mirchi Bhaji. How many of you like Mirchi Bhajis? Oh, yeah, great, great. Do you think chilies are as hot as they used to be? Do you think chilies are losing their heat? Yeah. So let's see. I mean, I'll read Mirchi Bhaji and I'll leave the interpretation to you. And I'll be happy to get some feedback after the session. Here we go with Mirchi Bhaji. Famished streetlings watch the smooth cleansing of hot intestines. A crunchy green chili bathed in tamarind water gently drops into a wallop of basin. And then, as if to meet the call of witches, it plunges into a cauldron of oil. In the parliament of chilies, seeds explode like angry ministers. Stains of emerald green mark the migrant vendor. His pungency melts into the grease of a cool, rain-washed evening. He labors to stir and design a burning aftertaste, something to accord the lamentations of the poor farmer who says, "These peppers are born of a gasping earth. Without water, there is no fire." Heatless chilies do not make us cry anymore. They only thicken the body's costume. Thank you. My next poem is titled short portion of this poem. Bottu. Delay claims the forehead of women who choose vermilion lovers. Bucolic bodies between cold-rimmed eyes harvest days of useful toil. As the sun belongs to the Deccan sky, the Bottu belongs to these women, expanding into cylindrical households. Everyone knows her price, her curves, waiting for calamity, a resting face possessed by a dense red sphere. Her green sari invites the air, unloosening vanished men on charcoal shadows. Thank you. The poem was written just a week ago for Rattle. You know, Rattle has a section of poets respond online. You can respond floor because he was attacked by a dog, and finally he passed away. So I was very disturbed by that, and I wrote a poem. But I would also like to say that when we write poems with a purpose, it is also the artist's responsibility to, push the art form. It's not just what I say, but how I say matters a lot. The aesthetic appeal of the poem, I think, is where the artist has to, prove the point. I tried to do something, but I don't know whether you like it. It's in the blitz form of poetry, introduced by poet Robert Keim. It has a very unique pattern of repetition, and each line is only a short phrase or an image. It runs till 50 lines, and like a blitz, like a storm. As he says, sometimes you have to permit yourself to play the fool if you are a creative. So here we go with my last poem, Remembering a Young Boy, and it's titled Order Received. Order received. Boy falls off building. Boy reaches hospital. Hospital holds a broken head. Hospital declares him dead. Dead was his mother, dead before he quit college. College, an empty bag. College, without pockets. Pockets of paper, pockets of earpods. Earpods ride midnights. Earpods hear a soul. Soul alone, not alone. Soul with a furry friend. Friend without a leash. Friend with command. Command of a German shepherd. Command of confused hunger. Hunger for control. Control lost on a delivery boy. Control panel out of order. Order received. Order is a box of blood. Blood betrays body. Blood breaks God. God is blood. God is power. Power of the rich. Power of the puppets. Puppets dance. Puppet masters hide. Hide the real joke. Hide the hills. Hills never sink. Hills ignore shanties. Shanties of the small. Shanties without sunlight. Sunlight steals insurance. Sunlight seizes joy. Joy of a balloon. Joy of 5 stars. Stars cradle a boy. Stars map a melody. Melody of friendship. Melody of a dog's master. Master with medicines. Master wrapped in worry. Worry fails a blurry ending. Worry waits for a clear beginning. Beginning, ending. Thank you. If you want to learn this form, I could teach you after this session. Thank you, HLF, for the platform. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manya, and I'm elated to be here. I'd like to say a few words about just sharing a tribute to my grandfather, who first believed that I could be a poet. When I was 12, he encouraged me to publish a collection of poems, which I thought were just silly, but I guess he saw something in me that I didn't, and that really encouraged me, and I wish he were here. And with that, I'd love to share with you a few poems from my book, Rebirth. And I'd love for you to come flip through it after the session if it speaks to you. So my rebirth has happened over the last 2 years, where I've been reinventing myself, and it went through certain phases. So today I'd like to take you through those phases with a snippet, a poem from each of those phases. The first one, it started off with stillness. This poem is called Cusp. If you ever found yourself in a place where you don't know what's coming, and you can't make sense of what's here right now, this is about that. Cusp. I find myself ruminating, hibernating, incubating, invisibly operating. It's dark in here, yet I trust that I'm not buried, I'm planted. In no man's land, on the cusp of no longer and not yet. The gap between the past tense and moments to come. I am a seed taking root, germinating, growing into a sapling. I am blooming into my glorious new form. After stillness, after taking a pause and examining my life, came a phase of destruction, of shedding like a snake, skin that no longer served me, beliefs that no longer made sense. So in this process, I wrote something that I feel some of you might be able to relate to, especially growing up in the Indian context where we're told a lot of what to do and what not to do. Anyone relate to that? Everyone. Okay, so this one is called 3 Myths. It's more of spoken word than poetry. Today, let's bust 3 myths and drop the baggage that they come with. What are they, you ask? Decoding them is quite a task, so let's begin. As children, we're told, smile even if you don't like it. Stop crying, I don't like it. Be good, you shouldn't get angry. Give your aunt a hug, don't be shy. And just do as I say, don't ask why. Following instructions becomes second nature, under the guise of family, tradition, or culture, so we don't even question the slow departure from our own inner being. It becomes but an annexure. Meet the first myth, should. Usually heard as a controlling voice, the one that doesn't really leave you a choice. It starts with a parent or a teacher in class. Either way, we couldn't really give it a pass. Meet the second myth, must. The voice of expectation thrust upon us with force. You must do this. Sit properly. get that job after this degree, and you must get married, surely. Meet the third myth. Have to. A gentler cousin of must, not as pushy, but needs to speak first. Have to comes laden with obligation, gives birth to guilt. There's no room for negotiation. If you're my friend, you have to come. You should do this if you're not selfish. You have to do this, or else. Some plead, some order, some dictate, some guilt trip, and some manipulate. I would keep giving in, feeling indebted, my needs and wants forfeited, others' wishes and dreams adopted, many beliefs falsely concocted. So ingrained are these ideas of duty. If you're a good daughter, you would do this. So permeable are our minds, and these thoughts plant themselves and get rooted. It's up to us to uproot them. Our mind is a garden, a precious realm, and these thoughts are like weeds growing at random. We can start by learning why and from where they come, inspect, evaluate, and deliberately discard them. If you're like me and you choose out of obligation or out of fear of the naysayers' coalition, it is time to ask some important questions. What will it take to drop the shackles of expectation and start acting out of our own volition? Let's begin with a much needed demolition of these voices urging us to be good, to be polite, to never be rude, to always pretend to be in a good mood, and telling us what is a must and what is a should. Why are we taught these things? And why are we treated like belongings? And why do we have to do what we are told? The voices may be cemented, but they are not permanent. It's time that we put them on mute. We get to decide what is moot. I'm not against discipline or rules, but if you prescribe rules, do also teach us the tools to use our own mind and unlearn false beliefs and start to discern. We don't have to twist and turn or go by some prescription to earn love that was always meant to be free-flowing and unconditional. When did love become so transactional? Repeat after me if this strikes a chord. It's time I make the rules of my own world. My life is mine and only mine to mold. I'm letting this new belief sink in. I don't owe anyone anything, and no one knows me anything. I'm now free to do my own thing. Have to, should, and must are the three myths that I bust. Thank you. Thank you. The next one, I think it will appeal to a lot of people here who are creating a book discount. Yeah. Free. Even worse. Yeah, so this was written at a time where I was so fed up by the requests for discounts, and I felt that this was on the behalf of every creator, everyone out there who hates being asked for a discount. But the sad part is we also kind of get used to it and we feel like we have to do it. So this is for anyone who's ever been in that situation. It's called discounted. Why do we discount and minimize and dismiss ourselves as if we don't count? We don't even realize it's amiss. Why can't we take a compliment without reading into what it meant? Why can't we just accept it, knowing that we're worth it? You're beautiful. You're too nice, we brush it off. No, they're being truthful. If you see yourself through eyes that love you, perhaps you'll be less doubtful. Why do we discount our pain? We say, it's okay, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. But the truth is, it hurts, it's real, and it matters. Why can't we accept gratitude? Thank you for dinner, it was amazing. You catch yourself saying, oh no, it was nothing. We are told, especially girls, to be polite, nice, and demure, and even a little unsure, because some thrive on us being insecure. Because it would be too much if we take up space and dare to act like we know our worth, to ask for what's fair. But every time we discount ourselves or our efforts, we miscount and devalue ourselves as though we don't amount to any time, value, or attention. and we give ourselves and others a clear signal that says, I don't seem to know my valuation. Please come and do my evaluation. Befriend humility. By all means, be humble, but beware of modesty, because modest is what others expect us to be. And modesty is nothing but good manners. And what good are manners if all they do is contain us? The universe will keep sending you people who make you feel small and who benefit from you feeling small until you start standing tall. You, my friend, already have it all. You don't shrink so that they can handle, and you don't play small so that they can feel big. You don't dim your light to suit their sight. You own your sparkle and shine on bright. People will always have the gall to ask you to lower your value, but your worth doesn't have to fall just because they can't see it all. And it's okay to be exclusive. You're not meant for all, and not everyone can afford you. But the ones who see your value will always give you your due. And if someone wants access to you or something that you create, you don't have to apologize or feel bad to tell them they need to pay the full price. There is no discount, rebate, or concession. And even when they pay, you are not a possession. Know that you are deserving just for being who you are, your unique way of being, not for giving or sacrificing. And there will always be some who discount your story, who disbelieve and discredit. They simply can't see your merit. But don't let their inability define your capability. One person's expensive is another person's exquisite. When you realize your worth, you'll see that there is no dearth of the kind people who make you feel lovable and absolutely invaluable. And when you start claiming your value, planted in your own power and virtue, the best things will just come to you. And there may be a few who call you pricey. But let me tell you, you are not pricey, you are priceless. When others think less, the lack is in them, not you. You are abundant and boundless. Remember, you're simply priceless. So how can one discount something that is priceless? Thank you. After destruction and getting rid of all the stuff and beliefs that I didn't need, came a phase of creation where I was inspired by strong women, especially other creators around me. Many of them are here today. And inspired by their journey and also the changes that I was going through, I wrote this poem about a woman who has come into her power. And this is a tribute to all the women here. It's called Here She Comes. As she emerges from undercover, she starts to reject labels given to her. She takes a long, soft look at herself. She decides she has a lot to unpack and undo to make way for the new. The new her that's unfurling, she is a sight to see, a vibe to feel. She is the real deal. Her unleashed self is not for all. She no longer seeks to be understood. She's unfettered and free, untamed like wild grass, unabashed by nature, unapologetic by stature. Unfiltered is her presence, uncontained in her essence, untethered to false goals and unbounded by blind tradition, unwavering in resolve, unfaltering in promises to herself, unashamed, uncompromising in integrity, unconditional in love, unadulterated in joy. Unshakable is her reality, unquenchable her thirst for life, unafraid of new terrains and undaunted by the unknown, unchained by expectation, uninhibited by rules, unfazed by others' disapproval, uncensored by her own inner critic. Unboxing her identity, unleashing her power, she's building herself to be unbreakable, unstoppable, and unlimited. Ready or not, here she comes. Thank you, everyone, for being part of my journey. I look forward to seeing you if this speaks to you. Would love to catch up with you after. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I recently published a poetry book. It's called Undiscovered. So, I'll be reading some of my favorite poems from there. The first one is called Into the Blinding Lights, and it has been written from the perspective of a newborn child. Into the Blinding Lights. Total darkness, not enough silence. Suddenly, a monster attacks, grabs me. I open my eyes. It's all blinding lights. I can barely see. I see silver thingamabobs and blue masks. I'm pushed into wet liquid. I can't breathe. I wiggle and struggle and eventually rise up. I feel scared. Where am I? It hurts to open my eyes and see. Feelings take control. Fear, pain, stress, tiredness. I shudder. This is the end. It is so cold. And suddenly warmth wraps around me. Just like in my dark home. I liked it with no lights, especially without these blinding lights. I fell into a trap and fell into the blinding lights. The next poem I'll be reading is called Into Darkness. So this poem, it has, the reader might have different perceptions from it, but for me, it's about death, rebirth, and karma. Into darkness. Into darkness we go, eternal silence and complete peace. Yet, war rages on, and we have no knowledge of this. Into darkness we go, wondering what will happen. As we begin a new life, we say goodbye to our old one. Into darkness we go, knowing that from now there is no turning back. We try to ignore that pinch of guilt and regret. Into darkness we go, closing upon us. We glance back and take one last look at our previous life before being swallowed by the beast. The next poem I'll be reading is called My Precious Moon. This is mainly about how imaginative children can be, and also how if a child doesn't have a person next to them, they'll still have a friend. My precious moon. There is darkness. I see that special white smile in the night sky, the moon, my moon, and its light. Sometimes her brightness is faint, but tonight she's white and bright and lights up the dark sky, showing all the stars inside. I go to bed in my room and look at the sky through the window, gaze up and smile, just like the moon. Slowly, I drift to sleep and enjoy a peaceful rest with the nightlight in the sky. My moon, my precious moon. It lights up the night and makes it oh so bright. If I'm lucky, I get to see the shooting stars in flight. The shiny, smiling moon, giving the perfect amount of light so that I can see the sky with my eyes. I'm free and feel like I can fly in the night sky. My moon, my precious moon. She will be my flashlight, guiding me through the dark night. My moon will be my companion, never leaving my side. Sometimes playing hide and seek, hiding behind the clouds. Soon we say goodbye, but we know this won't be the last time. I wake up in the morning and go about my day, knowing my friend is waiting for me and that we will soon meet again. I love you, my moon, my precious moon. The next poem I'll be reading is actually a poem I wrote on my grandmother's death anniversary. She passed away when I was 2 years old, so I wrote this about 2 years ago too. It's called I Wish. I wish I could know you better, but I cannot. Still, I dream of you and I together, forever. Everyone knows you well. I don't. Still, I stand tall with my head held high. Only your smile can dry a wet tear. Only your eyes shine like the stars. I wish I could know you better, but I cannot. Still, I dream. Okay, sorry. Yet, I love you with all my heart. I wish you could love me as much as I do. I wish. So, the last poem I'll be reading is called A Ray of Hope. It is a poem I wrote during lockdown when a lot of people were dying. It got me thinking about how this is like a war between people and the virus COVID 19. And I know it affected a lot of people, so I wrote this poem called A Ray of Hope. A Ray of Hope. Though darkness has come, we continue to fight. There is still a ray of hope, a ray of light. Perhaps we can win, just maybe we might. After all, there is still a ray of hope and one of light. Together, these rays unite, they meet each other. Eternal peace fills the world. But is this a dream? Come true, it may one day. And darkness will take flight. We will, after all, continue to fight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I think we've seen the gamut of, people writing poetry in English in India. Thank you so much, Srilata, Jhilam, Manya, and Tamaara.